Hello, everybody, and welcome to the inaugural edition of RealCom Live. I got to tell you how excited I am to be here today. And believe it or not, this show is 19 years in the making. At RealCom 2001, we had a little booth and a webcam, and we actually did a live webcast from the show to probably all of 3 people in the back room watching, 2 of which were probably our staff. It's amazing to see how the technology has evolved over the years. And I think we're finally at a point where the technology in the market has caught up, and we're excited to bring this weekly news series to you. This new show is really designed to bring the cutting edge topics that we're seeing happen during the week, and to give people an opportunity in an unstructured environment to talk casually and informally about what we're seeing happening in the real estate tech innovation world. So really looking forward to see how the show evolves over the next few months. And what's really important is that we get your feedback, your questions, your issues, and comments. If something isn't working, we're absolutely expecting to have some technical problem. That's pretty normal. But what we're looking to hear from you is what topics you want to hear about, what's on your mind. Help us make the show better. Your engagement is critical. So before we actually get started with our first episode, I'd like to take a moment. Today's a pretty special day, and I'd like just to take a moment to remember all those people who died on September 11th, and especially those left behind, the family and the friends who've lived with this for the last number of years, and we'll never forget. So to those of you who lost your lives, our thoughts and prayers are with you, and the family members and friends and associates as well. All right, with that, let's move on to the first episode of this RealCom Live. So we decided that the topic for today is going to be about the hybrid event that we're going to be doing in the end of October. And as most of you know, first week of March, things changed for all of us. And we, like many, wanted to or needed to figure out where we were going with a conference scheduled in June. It wasn't going to happen. And I tell people we went through a number of phases. The first was shock, then we went through fog, then we got some clarity, then we are taking action, but most importantly, we adjust daily. And the reason we decided to go with a hybrid event was we are in the built environment, and we wanted to make sure that we did everything we could to help our industry get back into buildings safely and confidently. So the hybrid event is going to consist of a very robust virtual platform, and then it will transition to a physical event in Denver, Colorado, of which we will be continuing some broadcasting back to the virtual platform. But we are going to attempt to get a small number, nothing like we saw in Nashville last year, back into this building safely, so we can learn. And I will tell you what we have learned in the last, since we've made the decision to go to go in 2020. What we have learned has been incredible. It's forced us to lean in and try to figure all these things out. What is a hybrid? What does it mean? What is the technology? And P.S., I believe that in the future, hybrid is going to be the way it's going to be done, because when we all come to conferences, to physical events, we leave a number of people home, and they don't get to participate. So it's forcing us to figure out, how do we outfit the conference rooms? How do we outfit the hotel? What type of technology is needed for the virtual and the on-site? And we're going to make lots of mistakes. We know that, but we figured, let's get going. Let's start it now. So next year, we're going to have a whole bunch of experience under our belt, and we're going to help the industry learn how we can get back into every kind of building safely. So with that, I would like to bring in Howard Berger. Howard has been running our program for 20 plus years. Nobody better knows everything about what's going on out there. Howard, March 1st, we were ready to go, program buttoning up, and then boom, it got hit. Topics changed, issues changed. Why don't you give us a little idea of what you're going through putting the program together for this event, hybrid event we're doing in October?
Thanks, Jim. Yeah, it's going to look a lot different this year. For the past 22 years, we put together a conference program that went very wide, went very deep on a dizzying array of technology topics, usually over 175 sessions, sometimes 250 plus speakers, which in the live setting was pretty doable. Now this year's hybrid, it's a hybrid event, but because of travel bans and quarantines and short budgets, the program emphasis is really going to be on the virtual side. And as Jim mentioned, this is new to all of us. We're literally reinventing ourselves. But overall, we decided to go big on the program. And I'll give you a little, just give you a little preview. So we're going to kick off with our usual pre-conference. That's our commercial corporate cybersecurity forum, our CIO roundtable, our CEO, COO, CFO innovation forum, smart building integrator summit, intelligent building boot camp, property management tech and innovation forum. And each of these is going to offer both traditional meetings as well as a lot of very topic-centric, small group, high-touch breakouts and roundtables. Following the pre-con, we're going to have 5 concurrent tracks, including continuous tech briefings on the latest enterprise and smart building and COVID tech, 15 virtual smart building tours, and we're in overall combined, I'd say we're going to have 80 plus virtual education events with over 125 speakers from all over the world. Now, honestly, it's been a challenge. User experience is very, very important and very dependent on the technology platform. When we looked at a lot of platforms, I believe we invested in the best. We know Zoom fatigue is an issue. For us also, the learning curve for us was new. We needed to go through a very painful process of literally reinventing ourselves. But the good news is I think we figured out a lot of the shortfalls in virtual platforms, and we really hyper-focused on user experience and how to facilitate better human engagement. And I think we found a platform that delivers on all counts.
Well, now, Howard, let me ask you a question. One of the opportunities I see is that we get to reach speakers all over the world. I mean, we had a large contingency of people coming in from other areas around the world, but the virtual platform really allows us to tap intellect everywhere, correct?
Not only reaching thought leaders and speakers from around the world, it really helped us make our community more accessible to a lot of folks who previously couldn't attend the conference.
Right. Well, and as you know, early days we looked at a lot of platforms, and texting this and chatting that really didn't get the job done. So I believe the platform we've chosen is going to take that engagement to another level. But we made modifications, right, where we actually are having more video windows installed to allow people to feel more like they're in the room. And I know it's not going to be perfect, but we're trying our best.
I think we've gotten as close as we can with the current slew of platforms. Let me just mention a little bit about the live event, because we have, of course, virtual events going to be Monday through Wednesday. Then we're going to pivot to the live event Wednesday through Friday. It's going to have its own program too, but it's going to actually, the live event's going to actually feel like being more like being in the middle of a living, breathing case study, where everybody's together, will be masked, socially distanced, and we're going to be figuring out all the processes and technologies that really help us safely reoccupy our buildings at scale. It's going to be smaller, more contained, but also a very interactive, immersive experience.
Right. Well, and if you think about it, there's no way we can go back to a 2,500 person conference tomorrow or next year for that matter. And that's why I really wanted to make a decision to go forward to try to figure out what does it feel like with 100 people in the room or however many people show up, right? Because it's going to be steps to get us back to something that even looks like normal. And why wait? Why not try to figure that out now?
Well, I think that was the key. I mean, we wanted to continue the conversations we've had over the past 22 years. But more important, we decided to take a leadership role, be first in the real estate industry, to really lean in and figure out how to hold a hybrid event. And in the process, demonstrate how we can get folks back safely in our buildings.
And I think you're going to see in the second segment, we're going to great lengths to make sure this is safe and healthy. In fact, I believe in some cases we're going to set new standards for what does it take to bring people back into a building safely.
I agree. I think we're putting all the right threads here.
All right. Well, I'm going to let you go for now. I'm going to bring you back at the end, but because we're going to talk to Lisa. But thank you so much for not just doing it this year, but for the 22 years you've been at it. You know more about what's going on in this industry, in my opinion, than anybody. You talk to everybody, and I just want to say thank you and great job. And,
it's been an honor. Thank you, Jim.
All right. All right. So now we're going to bring in Lisa Woods, who's been handling our sponsorship, exhibitor, sales for over 15 years. Nobody better. Lisa, little different, big challenges. Why don't you give us a little idea of what you've been going through for the last 3 months and what we can expect in October?
Thanks. Well, Jim, the conference is definitely not going to look like last year in Nashville. That's for sure. I mean, if you remember last year, we had 2,600 attendees. We had over 200 exhibitors. We were in a convention center in the vibrant area in downtown Nashville. The exhibit hall ballroom was almost 90,000 square feet just by itself. So yeah, this year is going to be a little bit different, but we're really excited about moving forward and, continuing to push the envelope. So the virtual exhibit floor, it kicks off Monday, like you said, and it's really going to be unique. The Realcomm IBcon conference, always, in addition to our strong educational program, has always been known for having an amazing vendor community, and this year is no exception. So in our virtual event exhibit hall, we're going to be featuring over 100 of the most exciting and innovative companies in the industry. These are organizations that, are thought leaders in our space and have been instrumental in solving problems for the real estate community. And some of the technologies we're familiar with, the cybersecurity and wireless communication, occupancy tracking, and property and investment management, energy, data and analytics, our smart building solutions. But new this year is a host of interesting COVID tech applications as well. The exhibitors in our exhibitor sponsor showcase will be setting up these really unique and interactive virtual booth experiences as well. They'll have the ability to talk to attendees one-on-one. The platform that we selected allows them to provide videos, interviews, blogs as part of a specially curated playlist. They'll be hosting roundtable discussions around a number of relevant topics. Our exhibitors will also be able to post and make available client case studies and host happy hours. All sorts of cool stuff is going to be happening inside those virtual booths. Now,
the good part, though, is there'll be a lot of video capacity, right? The ability to have live conversations with people.
That's right. Yeah, and that was one of the reasons that we chose that platform, was really the interaction and the engagement, and the ability to really put a lot of resources in front of attendees that, even in the physical environment, they wouldn't necessarily have.
Right. And I remember we've been trying to play around with the idea of, if somebody can't make it to the event physically on the on-site part, what does a virtual booth look like, right? And we're 6 weeks out, and I can't tell you what it is. We are learning. I'm telling you that the last part of that 5-step process is the flexibility. The strategy changes a little bit every 24 hours, and that's just the new reality we're in. And I know the efforts you've gone through to keep up with these changes, with a goal of having a phenomenal event.
It really has been. It's been challenging, not just for us, but a lot of companies. This has been a year of a lot of firsts. So, on the on-site side, at the Gaylord Rockies Resort in near Denver, we're going to have the on-site conference, of course, and there we'll have 50 companies, which will be exhibiting in our expo area there. The floor will be designed for social distancing. We're not going to put up pipe and drape, so attendees can flow more freely, throughout the space, and they can move through the areas smoothly. Everything's going to be set up in one room. I think you mentioned that. We'll be practicing all the cleaning and sanitizing protocols, and all the protective sun safeguards will be observed for the conference. One thing that's another first is that we'll be showcasing there some of the new innovative COVID technologies for coming back into buildings. I think Howard mentioned something, but we'll be seeing it in actual use. So it's going to be really interesting to see how those work and what it looks like and what the end result is.
Yep. Well, and I'm excited. Every day, like you said, brings new challenges we've never seen. A little bit of stress, but it is in these times that we figure out how to reinvent ourselves. And literally, the whole world's been digitally transformed in 4 to 5 months, right? And we're all forced to figure this stuff out. Let's bring Howard back for the last minute. I want to make a point to everybody that in this hybrid event, we planned from the beginning to be able to change at the very last minute. And so there is a small probability that the physical side in Denver doesn't happen if there's an outbreak or the health situation gets even worse. And so that's the reality we deal with and the kind of contingency planning that you have to have these days. But the bottom line is it is a plan. And you have to think things through, so you've got an option B, C, D, and E. And until this thing settles down, I think our whole world, especially owners of buildings, office, industrial, multifamily, retail, this is the kind of things we have to try to figure out. So, Lisa, final thoughts for the audience on what to expect from the vendor sponsor side, and then we'll turn it over to Howard.
It's going to be interesting. It's going to be, something we've never done before. We've never done a hybrid before. We've never done a virtual conference before. But if we've learned anything in the last 4 to 5 months, it's you've got to be agile. You've got to be, have the ability to pivot at any given moment, because it seems like every day something new comes our way, and things are changing almost not even daily sometimes, but by the minute. So it's, being agile and just keeping it together, because, we hear a lot that we're in this together, and it's really true, but we have to figure it out, and we'll figure it out together. So
I want to go on record just to say thank you to our vendor community. For 22 years, you have been phenomenal. This year especially, your understanding, you're working with us. And I just want to say thank you for 22 years of phenomenal support.
Absolutely.
Howard, final words of wisdom. What can we expect from the program?
Well, it's a broad program. I think we've spent a good deal of the year so far selecting what we think are the topics of importance. And I want to shout out to all of our advisors, our 150 advisors, and all of the content contributors from around the world, who I really believe represent some of the best thinking in class, and who are contributing to this program. One of our goals has been to, of course, you can't simulate the feeling of being in a session room with live speakers, but one of our goals was really to offer an opportunity to create kind of that fluid learning environment, but also have the opportunity for folks who are attending to actually feel like they are engaged in that process, which I think our platform this year is going to enable us to do.
Yeah, again, a shout out to that community. A shout out to that community as well. All of our end user community, our advisors. Without you, we are nothing. You have guided, supported us, helped us architect these events for 22 years, and this year is no different, especially in these extreme circumstances. So, from Sydney to London to New York to LA and everything in between, I want to say thank you to all those folks as well. So, a great segment. Thank you so much for everything you do and for taking a few minutes out of your crazy day. And we're going to let you go and make some time and head towards our next segment. And with that, I'd like to show a commercial from one of our sponsors, a longtime supporter, great supporter, Cohn Resnick.
Cohn Resnick Advisory provides a global team of professionals dedicated to helping organizations address their unique challenges, developing the breakthrough ideas that create a clear vision and effective solutions, to help clients drive market change through agile, innovative approaches. Work side by side with advisors whose focus is fixed on building the future you demand for your business, long after the scope of work is complete.
I'm going to bring in our two next guests, Scott Papay and Tom Shircliff. These are two gentlemen, dedicated professionals in our industry, have done extraordinary things over the year, but more specifically, have done an extraordinary thing over the last couple months. So just to give you a little context, once we decided we were going to have some type of a physical event in combination with the virtual, we thought that we weren't going to just do an average job. We weren't just going to have an event for the sake of having an event. We knew people, especially in New York City, were having trouble getting people back into buildings with confidence and safety. So we said, well, what can we do? How can we lean into this? And we quickly came up with the idea of a site visit tour into the facility, where we actually climbed through air conditioning ducts, looked in elevators, looked at touch points, and literally sent a group of professionals into the facility to come back with recommendations of what we should do to make this, and not just this, but use this as a case study for buildings going forward. So first of all, gentlemen, Scott, Tom, I want to say thank you. Tom, you jumped on an airplane from North Carolina to get to Denver. Scott, you're local, but Scott rounded up a group of about 12 people. And I think it was you had 12 people on the ground, and we had 16 people virtually watching you, commenting, asking questions. So let me start, Scott, with you. you were there. What were you looking for? Why did we do this? Why did you think we were doing this?
Well, to really understand how we could have an in-person conference, we needed to evaluate the facility in its current condition to really understand the infrastructure, the technologies that they had in place. And so we weren't really there to evaluate the staff and the practices and those kinds of hygiene standards for cleaning, for example. It was really about the building infrastructure system. So we were looking at things like the heating and air conditioning systems, the ductwork, as you mentioned, Jim, and the lighting systems, the elevators, some of these high touch points where people, as they come and attend the conference, will be interfacing with these core infrastructure systems. So the staff there at the Gaylord were very accommodating and very knowledgeable, and they have the latest technology really in their facility, as it is a relatively new facility. And so right now the systems are predominantly configured as originally engineered, which is more along the lines of energy efficiency. And there's some pretty simple things that we'll be talking about in just a couple minutes that can be implemented, low or no cost things that can be implemented to really help move the paradigm from an energy efficiency standpoint to this tension that we bring in when we start talking about a focus on public health.
Right. So Tom, I mean, obviously, 3 months to go, 2 months to go, whatever. We knew we weren't going to get the Gaylord Marriott to make major radical shifts in a relatively new building, right? And many of the building owners are now faced with challenges with leasing space and collecting rents. And a lot of these things could be, considered high cost items, to change some of these systems. How do we deal with this tension between struggling with revenues and now having to invest in these facilities to make them safer for people to feel confident to come back to? We can't hear Tom. Well, while we're waiting to get Tom back, Scott, you want to take a stab at that?
Yeah, there's this idea that it's going to cost money to implement a lot of these improvements, and certainly there are investments which can be made with technologies that will help sanitize the environment or create a cleaner air delivery into the spaces. And one of the things that we realize is, in order for people to re-enter these spaces, is in order for leases and those things to be able to come through, people need to feel safe coming back into buildings. So it's a real double-edged sword. It's if you don't make the investment, you're not going to be able to collect the leases, and yeah. And
so it's a real struggle between the financial side of this. And as I mentioned earlier, there's going to be some technologies that obviously we're not going to be able to implement by October. But the reality is we've identified them. You guys have produced a stunning 16-page report that is kind of in the final draft revisions. We're on the phone with the Marriott next week to present that report to them. I don't have any expectations that they're going to be ripping out relatively new air conditioning systems and making these suggestions. But the reality is we learned a lot. And that was our whole focus about leaning in, was the ability to not wait till 2021 and wait for some magic bullet, but to start getting on the ground now. As I said, metaphorically, ripping ourselves or walking through air conditioning vents to try to figure this stuff out. And you guys were in guest rooms, you were in the back, utility rooms, you were in the ballrooms. You literally walked that whole hotel trying to find some critical points that we can. And the good news was there was some inexpensive things that I hope that they will take advantage. And Brian, if you wouldn't mind, bring up that slide one more time you just had up. In addition to what this site team came up with, the RealCom team over the last 5 months has been identifying what is a new category of smart building technologies called COVID tech. And as mentioned, these technologies are going to be in Denver. Everything from a scanning device that looks at 4 critical measurements in your body: temperature, blood pressure, giving you much more a better read into somebody's health than simply a thermal scanner. Illumina has the capacity to do surface testing and take a swab into a bathroom and determine if COVID's been on any of those surfaces in the last couple of weeks. Reverse ionization. There is an emerging group of technologies that was actually existed, but not for COVID, but it pivoted in 3 short months, and we're going to literally have them there to talk about. So any final thoughts on what you saw at that hotel and what that report summary was all about?
Yeah, I believe that the conversation with the Marriott next week is going to be really informative. And I think one of the things that they're going to really see is that there is a host and a whole myriad of solutions which are available, and there are no silver bullets. It's really a suite of solutions that can be all brought to bear, none of which are 100% effective on their own, but yet taken together and deployed, we can really create a safe environment for people to come and occupy a space in larger groups. And that's really what the focus for this team was.
Tom, I know we had a little technical difficulty. Why don't you give us your thoughts? I'm sure you were listening, but we just couldn't.
Sorry for the audio, but I would just add to that what's interesting, and this is analogous to all smart buildings, is that when you look at a facility like this or any commercial facility, you've got lots of existing digital systems. And so one of the things we were doing there, and that we all do in the smart buildings community, is can we get use cases out of those powerful existing digital systems and point them at a new priority? This priority is public health. And I think that's going to be an effective way to get to the cost concerns you were mentioning earlier, Jim.
Yep. So, guys, again, I can't thank you enough for your commitment, your vision, your time to do this. I'm really excited to get this document in a form that we can get it out to the general public, because, as I said, we didn't do this just so we can hold a conference. We did this as a first step of a case study to figure out what can we practically do in these buildings to give people more confidence as it relates to their health. So hats off to both of you. You are leaders, you are brave, and I really want to commend you for leaning in and helping us with this project. So you have a wonderful day, and thank you again.
Glad to be part of it.
Thanks, Jim.
All right. So on to our final segment. This is going to be a weekly part of our webcast. It's called In the News. Sherry Whittemore, who has been with us over a year now and is in charge of digital media services, has taken on the task of aggregating the weekly news for prop tech, real estate tech innovation. It's been a fun process. We meet many times a week, but we have a lot of technology helping us with it. Sherry, you've done a wonderful job, and congratulations on that. And why don't you give us a little idea on what happened this week in the world of real estate technology? All right. So Brian, if you want to just bring, we're having technical difficulties, which I said in the beginning, I'm sure we were going to. That's why we worked through. Brian, if you want to just bring up that weekly news brief screen, and then what I'm going to do is just kind of give you an idea. Each and every week we meet, we've got an engine that aggregates data for us, the news stories, and we probably look at 100 different stories a week. That the system through algorithms brings in, and then we apply a little bit of human element to this as well, which means we go through these stories and we pick out the ones that are, as we say, are in the crosshairs of our industry. We can't totally rely on what the technology alone to do this. And the goal here was really simple, was to aggregate this news in such a way that busy people can take a quick glance once a week and see stories relevant to them. So the criteria: real estate, technology, innovation, smart buildings. We've got lists and lists of words that these algorithms queue up on. But in the end, it's the humans that look through these lists, and out of the 100, narrow it down to 20. And I believe we deliver anywhere from 8 to 10 articles each week, usually with a lead story. So again, Sherry, I know you can't hear me, but thank you so much for your efforts in pulling this together. And we'll be excited to hear from you next week. And as you're going to go through the top 2 or 3 stories of each week that complement what we sent out in the weekly news brief. All right, so we're coming close to ending our first episode of RealCom Live. We hope you enjoyed it. But most of all, we hope you give us the feedback. Give us the ideas, the content, the questions, the issues, and we will access our global group of thought leaders to try to get these questions answered for you. And I would like to leave you with a final thought. We call it leaning in. These are unprecedented times. These are difficult times, and it's very easy to get caught in the fog, if you will. And no one's expecting us to take 10 steps, but we are hoping each and every one of you will take 1 step. And I'll give you a little example. Each and every night through this, I try to maintain some type of health, fitness, Gym's closed, so I walk. And I walked through our little village, and I watched how the restaurants have been dealing with this. At first, they were closed, of course, and then the minute they were available or allowed to do takeout, the takeout signs went up. And I noticed that some restaurants did it and some did not. Then all of a sudden, there was one umbrella outside, and there were two, and then there were four. And then most recently, one of my favorite restaurants in town, there's a tent. And I talked to the owner last week, and she said they're at full capacity. They didn't go from closed to full capacity, and she's an anomaly to be able to do that. She had a parking lot. But the point was the journey back was one small step at a time. We know our in-person event is not going to be anywhere near what Nashville was. We have no idea how many people are even going to be there. But for those of you who feel safe and comfortable with the idea of coming and having the confidence, we're doing everything we can to make this a safe experience for you, and also an experience where you can learn from. We do hope you join us. So, and most importantly, consider leaning in, even if it's only a small step. If you've got ideas for our virtual side of the event, let us know, send us an email. We're here for you, we're here to serve you, and we really, really do appreciate your feedback. So with that, I would like to close the first official episode of RealCom Live, 19 years in the making. I wish you all a very good day, and don't just survive, let's all try to thrive in these difficult, challenging times. Have a great day.